All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside In Tennis Podcast. Mitch Michals here, all part of the Believe Network and available wherever podcasts are found. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, or watch on the YouTube channel at Mitch Michals. We love to have you supporting the show into a new part of the tennis season. We're past the U.S. Open. We've got the Asian swing going on. We also have the 8th edition of the Laver Cup. And joining me now, friend of the show, reoccurring guest, one of my favorite people to talk tennis with, and putting a reporter hat on this week on site at the Laver Cup in San Francisco. It's Amy Lundy. Amy, welcome back to the show. Love to have you here.
Always enjoy talking to you, Mitch, and I've literally got my Laver Cup hat. So reporter hat is on, and I'm so dialed into this event. It's such a cool event. I'm loving to talk about it.
Yeah, and there's so many ways to get to with this, and we love to, again, have you on the show, break down these tournaments. I guess I can start with this, right? I was looking at how, new markets, or not necessarily new markets, but areas that don't have tennis. It's really cool to see San Francisco, proud sports town, obviously playing where the Golden State Warriors have been moved to recently. But I noticed there was like ping pong in the airport. There's just a lot of excitement around. That's the first thing that stands out is it's always cool to have tennis in parts of the world, parts of America that don't normally get to experience it.
That was a topic of conversation in the Team World press conference yesterday. And you're right. As soon as I got off the plane, I saw the yoga room, which you don't normally see in an airport. But I knew I was in San Francisco when I saw that. And Agassi actually lived here for, I think he said 8 years. He made his home here just because he liked the vibe of the city. So he had some good memories of, playing tennis here and the small tennis community here. A lot of the players really love the Golden Gate Bridge shoot that they did, and just the vibe of the city, which is, as you know, Mitch, Northern California is so different from the rest of California. So it's really cool to expose this part of the state to tennis at this level.
Certainly is. Smaller event. So it's also like, I guess I kind of thought about it like this too, Amy. We're so used now with these extended masters, every tournament's like 2 weeks long, 3 weeks for the slams. Kind of nice, right? To have just like a quick weekend, like you got the practice lead up, but it'll be over before you know it, right? 3 days starting today on this Friday. And so I think it's kind of good that there's almost like a big fight, big sporting event feel that it's only over 3 days.
Talking to the players, it almost seems like for the first time ever, they almost wish it was a little bit longer. Because just to give people some perspective, this was Roger Federer's and his agent's sort of dream to put this together. And they go first class all the way. And they treat the players so well. They take them out on cultural excursions, which you don't normally get to do. Like they took Alcaraz to Alcatraz, which was really neat.
Yeah.
But also just like museums, and they had a big gala last night, and they outfit them in suits, and it's just first class all the way. Plus, they really, really, really enjoy being around each other and having each other as teammates as opposed to competitors. That's something that they don't often get, and at this first class level where everything is you're made comfortable every step of the way. So it almost goes by too quickly.
Yeah, I had that note down too, right? Like it's individual sports. We're gearing up in golf for the Ryder Cup coming up here in New York in a little bit. USA versus Europe. It's going to be great, but I feel like individual sport athletes love the rare opportunities they get to be part of a team. And you can expand on why that is, Amy, but it just certainly seems like any opportunity tennis players get to be part of the Laver Cup or the Davis Cup or any competition where they have teammates, they just jump at the chance.
Yeah, and almost immediately, even though this isn't like Davis Cup where you're playing for your country, what's really crazy fascinating is they almost immediately want to win. It's like, we've put you together, Team World, you're from a bunch of different countries, but your job is to win this competition. And they're almost immediately, yes, let's win, let's do this. So that's kind of a cool aspect. It also just shows you, like, professional athletes, they've got the competition gene. And if you tell them, here's an event, you need to win it, they're going to go out and want to do it.
We mentioned this 8 years, right, Amy? And it started in 2017. Roger Federer, his agent, the genesis of it. They got top players to buy in, but they also got an exceptional first one. I was going back and looking at that first Laver Cup where you had just the drama. It came down to Federer Kyrgios at the end. And I think it was partly that and also partly Nadal's reaction on the sideline, like living and dying by each point. But they set the tone in 2017 and they've really maintained it. It's pretty remarkable that in a crowded tennis space with so many events, a season that goes on so long, that they've got players to buy in and really take it seriously. And as you said, want to win.
When I was at Indian Wells in 2017, Roger Federer was there and he was being asked about this event in advance of it and how they, quote unquote, grabbed this date, this September date on the calendar, quote unquote, without asking anyone's permission. And Roger gave, typical Roger, like his most elegant pushback on this. Like, you don't know what you're about to see, but let me tell you, this is going to be worth it. We're doing something, we're taking elements from Ryder Cup, like you mentioned, and some elements from some other team competitions. We've given this a lot of thought. We're not just grabbing, just wait and see. It's going to be good. And I was watching that event was in Prague, and I was watching on TV, and they had thought about the broadcast of it, the black court, the popping red and blue colors. They had given thought to every detail. So it really is, I think, additive to the tennis calendar. Even though I'm one of these people who thinks that we should shorten the tennis calendar, this one I would not take away, especially seeing how much the players enjoy it.
Yeah, we'll save the tennis calendar. It's just such a long one and such a messy one to consider. But yeah, they enjoy it. That's the point, right? Like this is something that the players like and they're the priorities. So if they like it, let's keep it going. You mentioned Federer because I got to say that it's his event. He's like royalty now because I was going to say he has like two of the most viral moments so far already. But before I get to that, it's just anytime he shows up now, it's like a king. It's like some monarch showing up, and that's where his place, as it should be, by the way. But that's his place in the tennis world right now.
It's like somebody turned on the electricity. There's a crackling whenever he enters the room. You want to listen to everything that he says, and you believe in the projects that he's involved with. So, we talk about the big three, and in my opinion, Novak will go down as the best tennis player of the big three, Nadal the best on clay. But Roger brings this, when he walks into the room, everything is changed. He has an elegance about him. It's true. And he's learned to deal with people very well. He has a diplomacy about him that it's really hard to catch the guy in a bad moment.
Yeah, it is true. Like, and one thing that I want to point out, I talked to Leif Schauer's broadcaster tennis channel years ago, and he talked about Bjorn Borg, and he said Borg would walk into the room and people would just stop and like stare. And that's the Roger quality too. It's a very rare one. Doesn't necessarily equate to who's the best, and some all-time greats don't have that. But Roger, like his idol Bjorn Borg, definitely has that. I just love that he's involved in the game still, and I know it's hard to, no one has to be involved at a certain level. You can be a coach, you can be a commentator like McEnroe, you can decide you want to walk away like Pete Sampras and just live your life. But Rogers found this moment also absurdly wealthy, pointing out, but he doesn't have to be involved in the game, but he's involved enough to kind of keep him around in our lives and also do great things, as he talked about. Maybe a Fed Nadal exhibition tour is one of the other things, but I'm just one of those people, Amy, that's happy to see him involved in the game in any capacity.
Me too. And so the sky is still the limit for him. I mean, one thing that I think about a lot with him is that he's the father of 4 kids, and that's a lot. So, there's going to be, making up for time when he might have been on the road when they were younger, and he'll want to be there for all the important moments, the concerts, the tennis matches, the banquets, this, that, the birthdays, this, that, and the other. But he can do whatever he chooses to do. He really is like tennis royalty. And Mitch, some of the others are, I think, watching him and following his lead, and watching Andre Agassi and listening to him in the press conference. I think he's starting to carve out his own niche within his post career. And he said, I'm an empty nester now. My kids are, off doing their thing. So now I can really take the time and figure out what I want to do in this sport.
Well, I mentioned those two viral moments. One being golfing with Alcaraz. It was good to see them on the courts, on the links, golfing together. Alcaraz just smiling like a lot of people would. But then, of course, the Fonseca meeting his idol. That's the one I wanted to talk about because it's really cool to see anyone have that interaction with someone they look up to. But when they're a world class athlete, I don't know, Amy, it just hits a little different that there's this kid with all the talent and potential in the world, but he's still a fan just like all of us.
Absolutely. And it was hard to believe that that was the first time that they'd met because Fonseca is sponsored by On, which, of course, Roger Federer owns a big part of that company. So that was kind of cool. And Roger made it easy. When I talked about diplomacy, the kid is still just a kid. Like I think about my kids, like would they know what to do in that situation? And Roger just scrapes off all the awkwardness, any tension, and he just makes it like a fun moment.
As we look at, the Laver Cup and one of the players is in this tournament, Carlos Alcaraz, I wanted to ask you, Amy, about another comment he made. It might get blown out of proportion in different ways, but I thought it was a very revealing one. The comment that Roger Federer made about the Roland Garros final this year, and he said that was kind of the seminal moment of moving on from the previous era. He viewed that as Alcaraz and Sinner. That's like the unofficial, official moment of, okay, now we're into this new era. We've moved on from the legends of the past. Do you see it that way? Do you understand his perspective and realizing that it is evolving, but that match being the one that kind of broke away from the past?
Yeah, and when he said that, I don't think it was a knock on Novak, who's still playing, but it don't take it to mean like this is a hard stop and now out with the old and with the new, and it's very clean and cut. It's just the changing of the wave cycle, and it was an iconic match, and may go down as one of the top two matches of all time. So I agree with him that it was a moment of change and very compelling and very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, for people that might think it's a knock at Novak, Novak's basically said the same thing. Like these guys are at the top of the sport, and I'm doing my best. And yes, there's never a clean break. You could see the old dog win a title at the end. We hope it happens for Novak and other players. But yeah, that was the one that broke through. It was cutting edge to the fans and everybody out there that these are the players here, and that's also sports. Sports is cyclical. Reigns don't last forever. We've seen it time and time again. So it was pretty remarkable. But yeah, the last thing on just kind of the before the ball, it's like everyone's auditioning for James Bond the night before. It's just tuxes everywhere you look.
Well, I mean, that's got to be Roger. Roger
Yeah,
has to be James Bond. So, please.
yeah.
Although Caboli, when he gets a little bit older, could slide into that role.
Okay, we'll have to take for that one. Well, looking at the coaches and the captains, I should say, this is a pivotal moment for the Laver Cup too, because we've got new captains to talk about. First year for Andre Agassi, Team World, Yannick Noah, Team Europe. Now, great decisions for both. Noah has been one of the most energetic forces in tennis and coaching Davis Cup and Fed Cup. Previously with the Billie Jean King Cup. So he's just a perfect role for this team competition. And Agassi, as you said, is Agassi, ready to come back into the game after not really being involved the last couple of years. I like the new blood coming in. I like that these players that have had Grand Slam success are willing to work with a generation that's coming forward. So the captain side of thing is one of the big storylines that we can discuss, Amy, of this Laver Cup.
Agassi, I don't know if it's that he's now dabbling in broadcasting or just the fact that he's changing in his life with his kids growing up, but he's now becoming someone who you just want to listen to everything he says, Mitch. Because I remember when he was briefly working with Novak several years ago, it's not that people weren't giving him the time of day. He's Andre Agassi. It's just he wasn't getting the attention that he is now. And everything that he says seems to be so profound and
Yeah.
wow, we haven't heard that really fresh. And the one thing that I liked that he said in the press conference was when working with the players, look, I'm not going to parachute in here and change everything in one day, but hopefully I can be something of a North Star to these guys. So in other words, it wasn't just about winning the competition. It was, hey, maybe these moments with me on court can help carry you guys forward as your lives go on.
That's great. That's a great point. We've seen it with other players in previous Laver Cups where it's not so much about winning this match or the technical advice. It's advice in certain scenarios, how to handle and how to match up. I remember the one that sticks out to me is when it was Nadal versus Jack Sock years ago, and Sock's talking to McEnroe, and McEnroe's like, just so you know, he just assumes this is going to be a tight match and he's going to win because he's who he is and you're who you are. So the perspective of a top player versus a perspective of someone in the middle, I think it's great. And I just think that having someone like Agassi who's experienced all, the ups and downs of tennis is good to have his perspective for whether you're Taylor Fritz or whether you're someone like Kaboli working his way into, or Mickelson or somebody like that working his way into like a new situation.
Yeah, and the same goes for Noah and the European team. His not just his tennis experience, but his world experience on multiple continents. He gets the multicultural aspects and how different athlete mindsets will go into match performance in various situations. So Kaboli said that he called Laver Cup an opportunity, like a great opportunity. And I think the fans might not they may just see this as some made for TV competition. But just so you know, the players see this as a major gift that they've been given
Yeah.
that they might not normally have access to.
So we got more with Amy Lundy here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. We're talking 2025 Laver Cup, San Francisco, California. It starts today. Exciting opportunity. Team World versus Team Europe. And yeah, let's look at the rosters, right? So you have Team World. I want to start with on paper, and we know these aren't played on paper, but they're underdogs if you look at who's on each team. Fritz, De Minaur, Cerundolo, Mickelson, Fonseca, and Opelka with Brooksby as the alternate. A lot of people are going to be, crestfallen of the players that couldn't make it here. Tiafoe, Paul Shelton, the big names that weren't able to play, but there's opportunities on the back end, and there's still a lot of firepower. So what's something that stands out as we look at the Team World roster and who could really shine here?
Well, let's think about the surface because this is a unique surface, this black court that they put in. It's very different than, say, the Paris indoors or something like that. It skids a little bit more. It might be a little bit trickier to move on. It could be faster. I haven't actually gotten the opportunity to ask the players about this, but I'm going to do that today. So I think it's possible, depending on how the indoor conditions are, that the big servers like Opelka could make hay on this. So maybe an underdog, yes, but perhaps not as much quite of an underdog, and Fritz as well, as we think it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, Fritz has been a gamer in these situations too. And just looking at the past, right? Opelka and some players we said, Isner scored a big win over Nadal here, the only time he ever beat him. So maybe, Laver Cup, different venue, but maybe surfaces and big servers can make a difference. But yeah, they're going up against Team World. That features Carlos Alcaraz, who we know has been money in this situation, beating Fritz last year in the basically winner-take-all match. You have Zverev, Holger Rune, Casper Ruud, Jakub Mensik, Kaboli, with Mahac as the alternate. Mahac is the alternate, and he's ranked, I think, 22 in the world. So there's your Team Europe roster. Pretty tough to beat.
Yeah. Just to give you salt and pepper here, Fritz had a cold last week and, lost his final Davis Cup match. But he's feeling better. So, and when you've had a really bad cold and you start to feel better, so they've got him in doubles starting night session. But so he could rebound really well. Meanwhile, Alcaraz reportedly has a bit of a cold. So maybe
Cold
somebody sees
season.
that as an opportunity,
Yeah.
right? In a best of three. And Ruud is found out that he's going to be a dad, and these are maybe not the conditions for him because I'm not sure the court takes the top spin quite as much as he would like. So, this event is definitely worth a watch to
Yeah.
see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, that's a great quote, right? I skipped Wimbledon to start a family from Casper Ruud. So,
Look,
yeah.
this is a good opportunity for me to talk about
Yeah.
something that I've wanted to talk about. The WTA has come out with a maternity policy where the female players are allowed to take some time off to freeze their eggs or embryos to preserve so that when they're ready to start a family, they can. But that process of freezing takes several weeks, sometimes a couple of months. So they're not going to be losing their ranking points. Their place will be held. I just can't tell you how groundbreaking this is and how supportive I am of this. And I think it's kind of cool that Casper Ruud said, look, I wanted to start a family and I needed to take some time off. So I did. It's funny, but it's kind of cool at the same time.
Certainly is. Glad to see Casper back. We'll see how his game translates on this surface. You also mentioned it too, Amy. The doubles component is huge. We have players in this event that are, singles stars, but they're going to be playing doubles, some interesting combinations, and they're going to be playing doubles for stakes too. So this isn't like, and I don't want to disparage tournaments, when you're in a tournament, you might play doubles just to hang out with your friends. This is a real stakes situation. So it'll be interesting to see how these players perform doubles at a pretty high level.
Well, I'll tell you, Mitch, points are not awarded at Laver Cup, but money sure as heck is. So it is worth something, and it is an official sanctioned ATP event. So you know how popular the U.S. Open mixed doubles was this year when we had many singles players playing doubles. I think they might have kind of gotten some idea of doing that from this event, which everybody loved when we saw Federer and Nadal play doubles together. For me, this is a super interesting watch. To see which players adjust to the doubles format and pivot really quickly and what kind of strategy they employ. Do they play mainly two up? Do they rely on a serve? Do they poach? It's super fascinating to see.
We know day one lineup. We don't know the rest, but we're going to see. We're going to start it off with Ruud versus Opelka, Mensik versus Mickelson, Caboe, Fonseca later, and then a doubles match that has Alcaraz and Mensik taking on Fritz and Mickelson. So we'll get to see that Alcaraz-Mensik team, which will be interesting. The wily old vet, Carlos Alcaraz, in that matchup.
Yeah, and the last time I saw Alcaraz playing doubles, he was playing mixed with Raducanu, and he was like a tornado all over the court. I mean, he was backing her up. He was, running side to side, front to back. He won't have to cover as much ground with Mensik, but with Mensik having the killer backhand and maybe the less reliable forehand, I want to see who's going to play ad and who's going to play deuce.
Are there any matchups? I know it's like we're not captains. We just take what we get. Is there any matchups that you'd like to see, like a singles matchup, world versus, Europe, that you'd like to see?
I might like to see Fritz play Ruud. I mean, I'm an American, so I the fan in me sort of would like to see Fritz and the Americans do well. But it's kind of a contrast in styles. And Taylor is always learning. He's a real spongy guy. So that's a match that he can learn from Ruud in terms of movement and spins. So yeah, that one. How about you?
I was thinking about this and, different contrasts, everything. Maybe Holger and Fonseca would be one I would like to see. I think that could be good. I want to see players, Sarundel was a good example. He had a good Laver Cup last year. He really did show up as an opportunity. I want to see if someone like Alex Mickelson can take advantage of that same situation, right? Coming up. I mean, there's, a lot of pressure maybe in his mind. I hope he doesn't feel too much pressure, but to step up and take advantage of this opportunity. So if Mickelson gets a chance in singles, he'll have Mensik today. how is he going to perform? But yeah, I think maybe, and de Minaur playing somebody too. Even when de Minaur plays like Alcaraz, I think those are always fun matches. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing that in singles again either.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Alex yesterday, but I didn't get a question. Like, you came all the way from Davis Cup, around the
Yeah.
world to play this event. Um, they must have given him a great appearance fee to do this because it really is. But he looked chipper yesterday. He didn't look jet lagged or anything. Um, I think he's going to play really well on this surface, Mitch. I mean, this is a good
Yeah.
mover here under multiple conditions, and he keeps the ball low. I think it's going to be a good one for him.
Well, the scoring system's great too because it weights it more as it goes on. So if there's a dominant day today, it doesn't mean it's the end. So Sunday will be a lot to play for. We have never really gone to that like final extra doubles tie, right? Like we've never gotten to the extra match.
Not that I can
We
recall. No.
we almost did the first year. I think
It's
the
not like
first year.
Ryder Cup
Yeah.
where we've had some great Ryder Cups where it comes down to that
Yeah.
final day. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get there when the event
There is
ages.
there's a scenario where the math could add up to where they're all tied and they have to play an extra set of doubles or I'm not entirely sure, but
Ooh.
it almost happened once, but it hasn't happened. So that'd be my scenario. I just want a close one. But yeah, anything else, Amy? I didn't even mention the fact that we're gonna have an animated version for kids. They're gonna do
Oh,
like
I
the
didn't even
animated
know
version of
that.
it.
Oh, how
Yeah.
great is that? And that's
Yeah.
going to be on YouTube?
Yeah, I believe it might. Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn, but there is an animated version out there on apps, and it'll be good.
Oh, that's awesome. Just I know I sound like a real advocate for the tournament, but give it a try. Notice the details. Notice the court surface, and enjoy the fact that the players are enjoying themselves so much, which they don't necessarily always get a chance to do when they're on the grind of the tour.
Yeah, and I know it's been said before too, but it would be fun to see a women's event in similar settings and how that would
Combine
work.
these.
Combine?
Combine
Okay.
them. I know we have Hopman Cup, or we had
Yeah.
Hopman Cup, and now we have United Cup. But I would love to see women involved. Maybe I'll ask that if I can get to
Yeah.
one of the
I,
organizers.
I don't necessarily disagree. I was just thinking, would it be better to combine it or have their own unique event? Because it's an interesting question, right? Because I'm just thinking like the potential matchups, like we were talking about. What would the teams be? What matchups could we get? It's world versus Europe. Where it's funny how tennis and golf are different. Like you need to do Europe versus the field versus in golf, it's America versus the field. But maybe one day, I mean, I don't know. Maybe in a women's version, it's USA versus the field based on how the Americans are just doing well. So
I mean, I think the problem with doing a Laver Cup version for women is just the space on the calendar.
yeah,
I was sent an email, I don't know why, but I was sent an email about a summit that IMG held, and IMG is like an agency that's involved in the sport. And they were talking, there were many leaders of the sport there. Gaudenzi, the ATP head, was there. And they're talking about, what are the next steps to try to combine the tours if that's the direction that we want to go. And I would love to see a combined event, even if the venues are different.
yeah.
It just space on the calendar right now. But I think anytime you add women to an event, it's massively additive and it adds glamour and excitement. So I'm for combining everything pretty much.
Well, I hope we get there one day. So yeah, the Laver Cup will be a blast. Appreciate Amy Lundy coming on the show to break everything down. I did want to mention before we wrap up here on the Inside in Tennis podcast, there is some exceptional women's tennis going on right now. And in Seoul, we have a 500 event in South Korea, and we saw another epic match and some good ones I wanted to just touch on. Barbora Krejcikova beats Emma Raducanu in another epic match, and it was deja vu of the U.S. Open. She beats Raducanu in 3 sets. It was a 12-10 second set tiebreaker, and then she won the third set 6-1. Saved 3 championship points, a little less than the 8 or so she saved at the U.S. Open. But Barbora Krejcikova is just a fighter out there, and I just love how she competes, Amy, and I love how she does it with a variety of tactics as well.
More casual fans may not understand how Krejcikova won 2 Grand Slam singles titles, of course, multiple in doubles. And this is why, Mitch, because she's massively clutch. She brings that Czech discipline, that she's able to kind of center herself in the moment and not think about the stakes, but just be in the point. She's an incredible competitor. She will be in the Tennis Hall of Fame. And these 2 matches, incredible matches with all those match points saved, are example A of why.
Yeah, hasn't even been healthy that long, which is remarkable too. But yeah, just great performance. She gets Iga next. Iga in a 500 level event, so she's hitting the ground running. Still making a great push at the number 1 ranking, and with Sabalenka pulling out of Beijing, it could be in her sights. But Iga's someone that whenever she takes the court, Amy, I just feel like her approach, her professionalism, she's not bit by the upset bug as much as maybe other talented players would be.
Well, Mitch, when you can bagel and breadstick so many people,
That's part of it.
what's an upset here or there,
Yeah.
with the margins being what they are in professional tennis. Yeah, she's another one, travels with a psychologist. If you get a bad loss or an upset or a loss that you really wanted, you just do a session and you're good.
Yeah.
Again, she so quickly ratcheted up to elite status that I think sometimes we neglect to appreciate just the skills she brings, mental and otherwise.
Totally agree with that. It's remarkable to see. I can't wait I don't know if I'll be able to stay up for it. It's kind of late here in the West Coast, but we'll see what time they take the court. Krejcikova and Iga, maybe catch a little or watch it in the morning. And then, of course, we have the Billie Jean King Cup in progress. The U.S. is in the semifinals. Italy's battling Ukraine right now as we record this, so that's probably final by the time you listen or watch. But U.S. getting through. Lindsay Davenport just leading the team. It's nice when Team USA can just go to another Hall of Fame legend. Like, all right, Lindsay, now it's your turn to coach this team. But for now, on the backs of Emma Navarro, the USA is into the semis.
Excellent work, showing the men how it's done, because the U.S. Men's Davis Cup did not perform well against Czechia. But Lindsay Davenport, if I could pick a coach to have, it would probably be her because of her demeanor, but also her understanding of strategy on a player-by-player basis. Like, this player, you're going to go rally hard to the forehand because that forehand's going to spray and break down at some point. Or this player, you're going to serve hard at the body. I don't know if it's her broadcasting or, just the career that she had. Lindsay Davenport is just a top-notch coach.
Certainly is. And it goes back to something I heard, and I'm being absent-minded right now, that she's very, very good at knowing what buttons to push in terms of what individual player skill sets are. She's not the kind of coach, Amy, that's going to tell a player to do something out of her comfort zone. She even admitted as much when asked the question by, I think, Taylor Townsend. Hey, I don't really know because I never did that when I played. So I thought that was pretty cool to hear.
Yeah. The serve and volleyer is Taylor Townsend. It reminds me of something Pat Cash, one of the assistant coaches at Team World, said yesterday. It was a joke, but they were asking him, like, what are you telling the players to do? And he said, serve and volley every point and ship charge.
Yeah.
And that was a joke because, of course, they're not going to do that, right? Especially on a surface like this. But it goes back to just not trying to come in and you're not their day-to-day coach and rework how they play, but just massaging them and getting the most out of what they can bring.
Well, this has been fun, Amy Lundy, here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. I do appreciate not just our chats, but, reminder for everyone out there, Amy, how you cover the game and your expert analysis. It's very analytical. So that approach, I think, is very appreciated because you're looking at it from a data perspective. It's not just willy-nilly. It's not hot takey at all. You're looking at the info, and it's a hard thing to do in any line of sports analysis.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. I feel strongly that the women in particular deserve that kind of coverage. as opposed to just like some of the gossip and stuff like that. Because what they are doing really is incredible work. They're incredible athletes. And of course, I love analyzing the men's game from a strategic perspective because they can execute the high level strategies. So it's like super high level chess.
Well, this is always a blast. One last point I want to make. I want to, pay respects to the tennis community. Losing someone that was a solid player, the Hollywood icon Robert Redford passed away, who is a legend for a lot of people, an entire female generation, I would say, but maybe the biggest movie star there ever was, and one of them, but also a good lefty tennis player in his day, learning from Pancho Gonzalez. And, we want to pay our respects to one of the all-time movie stars of all time.
The Natural, All the President's Men, 3 Days of the Condor. I mean, just all the great movies. Absolutely one of my favorites. He must have been a good mover because I just read, Mitch, that he was only 5'10". I didn't even realize that. I mean, you think of like Redford as being like this icon, maybe like 6'4" or something, but I guess not. But yeah, some Butch Cassidy, like I was a huge fan.
Yeah, I feel like everyone was, but RIP to Robert Redford for sure. Amy Lundy, always a blast. Thank you for coming on the Inside In Tennis podcast. Enjoy the Laver Cup. Hopefully you get some good stuff and we get a great tournament.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Always enjoy chatting with you.
That was Amy Lundy. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. A reminder, it's on all your favorite podcast platforms. So just go to Apple, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your shows. Hit the download button, hit that subscribe if you haven't already to make sure it automatically downloads to your listening device. Leave a nice rating or review if you're so kind, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Mitch Michals. We're back next week with a couple of shows you're not going to want to miss, some coaches, some analysts, a lot to break down in the world of tennis. So for Amy Lundy, my name is Mitch Michals. This was the Inside In Tennis podcast. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.